Just 3 days away from the big primary in Hillary Clinton's adopted state of New York, and she's admitting she'll hike taxes in America by more than $1 trillion over the next 10 years. But with news that Americans are now paying more taxes to the federal government than ever before, Steve Forbes says we're already being squeezed dry. Is he right or wrong? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus with Steve Forbes, Rich Karlgaard, Bill Baldwin, Kerry Sheffield, John Tamny, and Bruce Jackson. Well, another $1 trillion on top of what we're already paying, Steve. Well, this will body slam the U.S. economy, knock it right to the ground. It'll hurt investment, especially your crazy capital gains taxes, which will be the highest in American history. That hurts investment. That hurts small businesses. So if you want to be like France without the charm, that's what she's going to do to the American economy, make the Obama years look like the Roaring '20s. And she's making no bones about this, Bruce. She had an interview with the Daily News. We just have the audio of that interview. Let's play the tape.
Now, I'm well aware that this is a heavy lift. I understand that. But I think connecting what I'm asking for to the programs, to the outcomes and results that I'm calling for, gives me a stronger hand, and that's how I'm going to go at it.
All right. She calls it a heavy lift. Can we afford that heavy lift, Bruce?
Well, I think what she wants to do is party like it's 1999 and 98 and 97 and 96, when the deficits went down, when her husband's tax plan, it did raise taxes, but they paid down deficits. And I think the Tax Policy Center says that it would reduce deficits by $1 trillion, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
So, but Rich, the fact is that what she's going to be using the tax money is to expand government. We've got a list of some of the programs that she's going to be spending that tax money on. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah, look, most of them aren't investments, as she says. They're transfer payments. We already have a big scandal about disability payments. Far too many people are faking disabilities, and she wants to increase that. But to Bruce's point about the 90s, I think what Bill Clinton understood and Hillary Clinton does not understand is first you have to grow the economy, then we can talk about more revenue out of government. But to tax people more off a 2% growth economy, it would be disastrous.
Well, Bill, Bruce says this is not going to grow the deficit at all. Is he right on that or wrong?
I'm a little skeptical. Now, I think taxes are very damaging to the economy, but big government spending is even more damaging to the economy. So here's my truce with President Hillary. I'll let you raise taxes by X if you cut spending by 2X. And, of course, she's not doing that.
No. Well, John Tamny, the reason she's not doing that, she believes that spending is investment. I'm reading from her website now where she describes some of these new programs and taxes. She says, I plan to boost federal investment by $275 billion. How's that federal investment stuff worked out during the past 7 years?
There's no such thing as federal investment. Government can only spend or invest what it's taxed or borrowed from its first. You have to consider the unseen, what we would be doing in the private sector with that money if the government didn't take it away. Such a huge tax on the U.S. economy, not to mention that our capital gains tax will be a penalty on the very people investing in the companies and jobs of the future. Bad idea, confused everything.
Kerry, I'm looking again at her website. Another thing she's going to spend money at $25 billion for an infrastructure bank. Now, I used to cover Latin America. I remember these so-called infrastructure banks that the government controls. They turn into big boondoggles in which all their buddies get the cash. Why wouldn't that happen here?
You're absolutely right. And if it were the case that you could spend your way on infrastructure to prosperity, we would have seen that in Japan, where they've spent so much money on infrastructure. They've gotten nothing in return. They've got stagflation, deflation in Japan. We don't want to be like Japan. We also don't want to be like Argentina. I mean, Hillary Clinton's basically setting her up to be the new Evita Peron of America with these spending, requests. It was interesting what she was saying in her tape. I'm caring about outcomes. No, she's only caring about inputs. We really need to actually be accountable for the outcomes, and that hasn't happened. We've had the war on poverty, trillions of dollars that have been spent. Paul Ryan's been very good about this. We haven't had outcomes. We haven't had accountability for the money we're spending.
Steve, talk about the inputs, meaning taxes. We are supposed to be simplified. A lot of people want to simplify our tax code, particularly as we get close to paying our taxes. We see how complex it all is. Her tax code is so much more complex. She adds new taxes. She has 8 separate tax brackets, by the way, 18 new separate taxes. I mean, this is becoming more complex, not simplified, right?
Yes, and it's all part of a government power grab, David. Complexity feeds the power of politicians because you have to go to them more and more to get a break or not to get shafted by the government. So they love this. So we have complexity, which means more government control. She thinks she's going to control more of the economy. And the point John and others make that if you want infrastructure, you have to have resources. And by the way, let's not forget, the infrastructure problems in this country come when government controls infrastructure. We have no problem with freight railroads, no problem with the FedEx and UPS and trucks and delivering packages. Government in charge, you got a problem.
Well, I think Bill would object to that. You don't like potholes too much. You think this might save some of that problem, right, Bill?
I would love it if she filled some potholes. I don't think that's going to happen. David, you're a citizen in the brokest nation in history. We're $14 trillion in the hole in the U.S. Treasury Department and another $23 trillion in the hole on Social Security. And I think both of those numbers are going to get worse under the Clinton administration.
And Bruce, all of those failed promises we had with that Obama stimulus plan. I remember poor Joe Biden coming out and making all these promises. Well, we'll have this much, this many unemployed. We're going to reduce the unemployment, et cetera. I mean, those promises were not fulfilled by that huge spending program that President Obama had.
Well, I think, you know, one of the things with her, it's a conversation starter. And I think that when she's talking about using some of this money...
Well, it started this conversation, so she succeeded in that way.
Which is better than what the other networks are doing in counting delegates, I'll say that.
God bless you.
So, but the deficit, if she's going to reduce the deficit, I think that's a good thing. Trump's plan would explode the deficit, and I think that she does need to, however, simplify her pitch a little bit.
Rich, what about that? Are the other people ignoring the problems of the deficit? We should mention, by the way, as the taxes, our tax inputs have increased to record levels, our deficits are getting bigger, too. So we're going in the wrong direction both sides.
Politicians like Hillary Clinton and some of the Republicans make a huge mistake when they assume this sort of static analysis, when in fact, if you have 8 different tax codes, as Hillary Clinton proposes, and a very high capital gains tax, people will take evasive action. And the richest and most clever people will take the most evasive action, so she won't even get the revenue that she wants.
By the way, John, she's also proposing to increase the estate tax again, despite some of the advice from people like you.
Yeah, the estate tax is one of the best ones to reduce altogether because it frees up the most crucial capital of all that people are willing to lose, that they're willing to experiment with on new ideas. We have Silicon Valley today because of Rockefellers and Vanderbilt, so you want to get rid of that altogether.
Carrie, this week we have found out that retail sales decreased. We're having a problem, the same old problem with a slow economy. It's been slow for years and years and years now. Is this going to help speed it up or slow it down even more?
It's going to bog it down even more. We need more job creation. You know, people from my generation, the millennial generation, we're afraid to form businesses. The Fed has shown this. We're afraid to form businesses because of student loans, because of the fact that colleges and universities, they have this endless binge bottomless pit, basically, from the federal government that keep giving money, taxpayer money, for degrees that are kind of worthless. So it's really upsetting, and it's all going to come on my shoulders. And you know what? Rich is absolutely right as far as fraud. There's $60 billion of fraud in Medicare every year. Let's clean that up instead of piling on more spending.
Well, we're going to be talking about that in another show. By the way, your shoulders are pretty good, but I think there's some other shoulders that are going to have to heft that load as well.